Some other functions of sorry, so we've talked about different ways of apologizing, but in fact sorry itself can have different meanings in different contexts, and it's not always an apology. I'm kind of cheating here because this is not a popular culture text, but in fact this is authentic spoken English. This comes from my case, the Michigan Corpus of Spoken Academic English. It's all online, and there are transcripts you can see of speech in different academic settings in North America. Well, it's all at the University of Michigan, but for example, there are speech activities like a lecture, or a group of students in a research lab talking through a problem, or service encounters at the university bookstore or at the library. So different genres of speech that all take place in the same context. And so this is an example from a writing group meeting. A group of students meet once a week and report on their progress. They share drafts and they workshop their materials. And so this is as messy and as ugly as real speech gets. It doesn't look neat like in those textbook dialogues where everybody says one sentence and it ends in a period and then the next person starts speaking without any hesitations or disfluencies or overlap or all of this stuff. So you see student 1 saying, do you want to look at my bad intro to my false start potential part of the paper? It's really, another student laughs, I'm not too proud of it, but student 3 interrupts, yeah. And then back to student 1 laughing. It was written on little sleep, but I didn't get into starting to write my movies about them. I'm sorry. What? I didn't get into like explaining my reasoning in the movies because I just didn't. I'm sorry. Okay? So this is kind of, I would say that this is an apology function of sorry. She's apologizing because she's not very well prepared. She knows that the quality of her work isn't very good. But sorry doesn't only mean I'm sorry as an apology. So here's another example. I'll let you read it. Can everyone see the screen from the net? Yeah? So you have this question. You see that?
Right.
Do they have to be enrolled at the time that they take the internship? I'm sorry. Do they have to be enrolled at the time that they're doing? No. What function is I'm sorry? Is that an apology?
No.
Okay. Okay. So sorry can be a clarification request. I didn't quite catch that. Can you tell me again? We do this an awful lot in spoken English. It's very, very common, and it's useful in all sorts of misunderstandings and minor things, like not big, huge, heavy, I dropped the box on your foot kind of sorry, but this is just, I didn't catch your name, or I didn't quite understand, could you repeat, that sort of thing. A useful function, I think, to teach students. Right? Like in a classroom if they don't understand something. Here's another situation. It's at the front desk of a library, so this is a service encounter. The student loses his calculator, goes to the desk. The clerk is S3, tries to figure out which calculator it is. Again, we have the false starts and the disfluencies and the overlaps and the pausing, all of that great conversational stuff that we never see in textbooks. Okay, hold on just a second. Nope, sorry. Sure, sorry about that. So is he apologizing?
Empathizing. No.
Empathizing, right? So there's an empathetic function of sorry too. I'm sorry I did this to you, but I'm sorry that this happened to you. I'm sorry that you lost your calculator. Right? So thinking about form-function relationships and approaching it either from the level of apologizing, how do we realize apologies, but also thinking about the form, I'm sorry, and it can have functions beyond just apologizing. So there's not a clear one-to-one mapping, right, as you all know, with language. That's what makes our job so complicated, but also interesting, right, and infinitely varied. Okay, here again, I'm going to ask you for some help as the outsider coming to Uruguay. Tipping is always one of those things that you go to another country, you have no idea how the system works. You're used to your own way of doing things, right? So here, is tipping a practice? Do you tip? You do?
Yes.
Okay. That's interesting, and actually I think we're very similar in North America as you are in Uruguay, because in many different contexts you would leave a tip. It's not always the case, and I know my colleagues from Europe are always a little bit indignant about the fact that everyone has, as they say in the US, everybody has a handout, right? Like expecting, okay, so the driver of the van who's taking you to your car at the airport, you give them a tip because they lift your bags, right? So these kinds of things. Or even like staying in a hotel, you leave a tip for the maid. Yeah. We're all on the same page. That's beautiful. My Italian friend is like, if you Americans would just pay people decently, we wouldn't have to keep tipping everyone. Right? So again, those are cultural differences that people then make stereotypes about and so on. So it's one of those things that's changing. So coordinating it, figuring out how much the other person doesn't want to appear to be cheap, right? If you leave 20% and I only leave 15, that makes me look bad, right? So we have to coordinate. And there's a lot, I think, of insecurity, self-consciousness in the U.S. about you don't want to, look cheap, you don't want to look bad, but we also don't know because those norms of tipping have changed. When I was a child growing up, it was 10%. At some point, 15% became the sort of default norm, and now some people say it really should be 20%. And the reason is that servers, earnings are usually the minimum wage for waiters in a restaurant, for example, are a different minimum wage than what everybody else makes. Right? So this is where my Italian friend says, okay, if you just paid these people a normal salary, then the rest of us wouldn't have these problems trying to figure out what the tip should be.